Welcome back to the halftime show on 1480 WCNS as the Bearcats host the Geneva Golden Tornadoes today at the Carey Center. Today we have a special guest at the half as we're joined by Saint Vincent men's tennis coach Brian Niemiec. Brian, you're about to begin your first season as head coach of the Saint Vincent men's tennis team after spending the last 3 years as a player on the tennis team. How has the transition gone for you from player to coach, and how excited were you for the opportunity to serve as the head coach?
The transition, it's gone pretty smoothly. A lot of the players saw me more kind of in the coaching role, especially last year. We had a lot of young talent that was cracking the lineup, and the veterans such as myself and a couple of the other seniors, we kind of stepped back and, just mentored the kids and let them, grow as they could on their own and, just give them a little bit of guidance. So the transition's been a lot smoother than I expected, actually. We haven't started our official season yet, but in the fall we did a little bit of working together, and everything was going a-okay. We'll be anxious to see what it's like once we're in for real matches and everything. I was definitely very excited for the opportunity. Unfortunate circumstances for how it came about, but I seized the opportunity. I'm going to do everything I can to keep going what Enrico had built here with this program.
Yeah, you take over for former head coach Enrico Campi, who coached for the Bearcats for 33-plus years and passed away this last spring. A fixture at Saint Vincent College for so long. What does it mean to you to follow in his footsteps as the new men's tennis coach?
It's definitely a tremendous honor. Enrico was a great man. He meant so much to so many different people throughout the community. Especially to me, he was a real mentor, a guide, and a type of a leader that I would look towards. He taught me a lot, and he wanted us to be better men than anything else. Tennis was always kind of secondary, and that meant a lot to me, and that's one of the things that I wanted to bring forward into the program and keep that going.
You kind of touched on it right there, but obviously you played for Coach Campi over the last few years. What are some of the things he taught you as a player that you have now implemented as a coach?
As a player, it was definitely, like I said, being a better man than anything else. You're always fair with your opponents. You're always nice to the officials, and you mean well when you're on the court. Along with that, he wanted us to be consistent, and he wanted us to, be mentally tough. That was one of the big stressors. You're not going to win games. You're not going to win points if you can't get the ball over the net. You're not going to be able to win games and matches if you're in your own head. So those were two of the big things that I took from him, and I'm going to keep, instilling in my players for the future. They were definitely two of the big influences.
You were named the men's tennis coach this past June, just 1 month after graduating from Saint Vincent College. I'm sure that was a whirlwind experience for you. Tell us about that time and what led you to becoming the new tennis coach.
Yeah, it was a strange experience. During the season, we kind of all kicked around like what's going to happen with this position, and from the onset, I kind of knew I wanted to do it, and I thought I was a pretty good candidate for it. Then whenever it got posted and I applied for it, I went in for the interviews, and that was always strange because as a student, I worked in the athletic department, so I had a good relationship with everyone, but I never saw them in the role that, of interviewing me and kind of being there judging me for a position. So it was kind of strange, but it was an absolute whirlwind. So taking over at such a young age, we think I might be one of the youngest head coaches in the NCAA. So that was always an interesting little tidbit. It's definitely going to help out in the recruiting process. Hopefully people are going to be trusting of me, with their kids for the next 4 years. So that was always kind of strange to me as well. I have to sell people on St. Vincent, and I think that my youth and recent experience there is definitely a big characteristic that I can use to help, with selling people on it. And so that was a big advantage that the athletic department saw in me, and I kind of sold that and used that as my biggest strength here.
And you're local to the area. You played tennis at Penn Trafford High School. How nice is it to be able to stay close to home at St. Vincent?
Oh, it's absolutely fantastic. It's just a little drive up the way. It's make it a lot easier for when we have practices and things like that. I'm not stressing to drive down to Pittsburgh or anything late at night. It's really great. I have a strong recruiting base in the Whitfield area. I know some of the coaches from my time in high school. I know people at local racket clubs. So it's definitely been huge for me.
Looking at your team for this season, the headliner is junior Jonathan Pritchard, who was the PAC Player of the Year the last 2 seasons. I'm sure you'll be leaning on him as your number one this year. Tell us about Pritchard and what makes him so good.
John is an absolutely phenomenal player. He has that mental toughness that Enrico would always preach. John is never out of any game. I've told him for the past 2 years, there's only one player in this conference that can beat you, and that's yourself when you get in your head. And, last year he went undefeated in conference play, capturing his 2nd straight Player of the Year, which that's only been done by players from Grove City, actually. So John's looking to get his 3rd this year, which would be a St. Vincent record, and the first 3-time Player of the Year since Peter Riley at Grove City a couple years ago. So he's definitely a big factor in our lineup this year. And we're looking to, move some things around from last year for our doubles teams. I'm looking to get John Oskin, another product of Erie, up there in the first doubles team instead of 2nd this year. Oskin was undefeated in conference play as well. He captured number 2 singles. He is just a tremendous player, and same thing, very consistent. He's almost like a machine when he's playing.
Last season, St. Vincent finished 3rd of the PAC. What needs to happen for the Bearcats to challenge for a PAC crown this season?
It's going to take a lot of effort. We're going to need to put in a lot of work, mostly at the bottom of the lineup. Jim Bendel, who was our interim coach last year, preached to me that you need strength at the bottom of the lineup. People 4 through 6 and 3rd doubles team. When you can win those spots, you have a lot better chance of winning throughout the conference. That's kind of always been one of our weaknesses. We do have usually pretty top-heavy lineups, but this year we're looking to slot in some players at 5 and 6 that are new to the lineup, with Riley Maruka out of Greensburg and Alex DeLuca from Latrobe. Those two probably should pair together, and I think they're going to fare phenomenally in conference play.
And looking at the conference, Thomas More won the title last year to snap Grove City's long run of 26 consecutive PAC titles in men's tennis. Obviously, those 2 teams would be the ones looking back from last year and in recent years, really over, I guess you could say, the last 2 decades, Grove City and Thomas More. Give us a preview of the PAC and what you see, and do you see those 2 teams being the teams to beat?
Yeah, definitely. Grove City has always been the team to beat in men's tennis especially. They are, I would say, the conference favorite this year, even though they didn't win last year. They just have tremendous recruiting classes year after year. Jeff Buxton, he knows how to coach them up, and he's just one of the nicest guys in the world, too. So it's hard to root against him or try to beat him because he's so nice. But then Thomas More, yeah, they have another solid recruiting class coming in. They have a 2-star player out of one of the schools down in Kentucky. So they have some talent they're bringing in, but I think it's very attainable for anyone in the conference to knock them off. Anything can happen on that tournament weekend. Other than that, Westminster is back and reloaded. Dave Hayden got some good recruits in. Bethany now has a full-time tennis head coach instead of having their basketball coach split duty. So they're really focused up. They have 2 juniors returning in Rowan Thrash and Drake Berlin. They're just phenomenal players. Usually a nice little rivalry there with us when we have the green game against them. But yeah, the conference is looking solid pretty much top to bottom.
Well, that's St. Vincent men's tennis coach Brian Niemiec. Brian, thanks so much for your time, and good luck to you and the team once this spring season gets underway.
Thank you very much, Randy. Thanks for having me.
No problem. We'll have more coming up the second half of today's ball game when we come back on 1480 WCNS.